So mindfulness meditators have to mindful of every process of any phenomenon and know it as it really occurs. For example, when you perceive a process of rising movements in your sitting meditation, you have to be mindful of that process movements as it really occurs and know it whenever that movements is long enough for you to make a mental noting. Sometimes meditators perceive a very short process of rising movements or very brief process of falling movements. They may be not able to make a mental labeling. When they mindful of brief process movements, sometimes the movement is very short and rapid. The labeling cannot catch up with that short and rapid process of movements. Then meditators should not make mental labeling. They just mindful of it as it really occurs. As they mindful of these process movements, they do not have to conceptualize their experience. For example, they do not have to think or analyze the movements. For example, thinking that this is a short and quick process of movements. Or sometimes they mindful a long process movements. They do not think in the mind. This is a long process movements. So in other words, in the practice of mindfulness meditation, the practice is beyond thinking or analyzing or conceptualizing the experience. And meditators do not have to apply any of their preconceived ideas or preconceptions of the practice. They merely bear awareness or pay attention to whatever object that is perceived by the mind at that present moment. So these keywords in the practice: see things as they really are. Hear things refers to conditioned phenomena. In other words, your five aggregates of clinging or your own nama rupa conditioned phenomena. So you have to see them as they really occur. But at the beginning of practice, meditators could not pay full attention to one phenomenon at each moment. For example, when you're mindful of the movements of rising or falling, sometimes you become conscious of other things. For example, the sound of the aircon, or you hear the noise of the door when yogis open the door or close the door unmindfully. Or you may hear the sound of chanting from the neighbors, or the noise of the traffic and so on. And sometimes you also could sense some pain or hot, a little bit cold, and so on. So it seems the mind can become aware of quite many things. But in reality, our mind can only do one job or one work at each moment. In other words, in the ultimate sense, our mind can only perceive or be aware of one thing or one object or one phenomenon at each moment. But the mind, as you know, the process of our mind is very rapid. The Buddha said he couldn't find a simile to explain the swiftness or to compare the swiftness of the mind. So that's why at the beginning of practice, we lay down a guidelines to do guidelines of this mindfulness meditation, so that meditators know what phenomenon that they should be mindful and note at each present moment. So the guideline of mindfulness meditation say that meditators have to mindful and note whatever phenomenon that has appeared at that present moment. But when mindfulness is not well developed, meditators become aware of 2 or 3 or 4 phenomena. Then the guidelines emphasize that meditators have to mindful of the strongest body phenomenon or body object or sensations. But if there's no strong object, body object, meditators should not look for it or search for a clear or distinct body object or sensation. They should go back to their basic object. So the basic object here, the movement abdomens, or sometimes meditators cannot perceive the movement abdomens clearly, or they could not perceive any movements at all. Then they should not force their mind to stay at the abdomen. They should quickly direct their mindfulness to the other 2 basic objects. The sitting postures, they may note it twice, sitting. Then they have to choose 2 clear contact and note one by one. First contact, touching. Then the second contact, touching. And then they mindful of the sitting posture again, sitting, and direct the mindfulness back to the first contact, and then the second contact, and so on. So this basic object mindfulness meditation, sometimes some meditation master call this basic object as a home object. It's because meditators cannot perceive any distinct phenomenon if they do not direct their mind back to the home object. Then the mind will begin to wander far away, or wander to the future, or to the past, and so on. So meditators need to direct their mind back to the home object. So when meditators are mindful of one object, for example, when meditators are mindful of the process of rising movements and not rising, and then they become conscious of an object, for the pain, which is clear, quite distinct. At the moment of perceiving or knowing this painful sensation, in reality, the awareness has gone there or has appeared there by itself. Meditators did not have to bring their awareness from the movement rising and bring from there in order to note that painful sensation. So at the time, meditators have to follow the mind and note pain. So at the time, meditators do not conscious of the previous object, the rising movements. So, in meditators, concern means they want to know if the movement rising is still clear. If they try to find out whether or not the movements of rising is still clear, then they could not mindful and note the pain so well. So meditators may mindful and note pain. Sometimes the intensity of pain is getting weaker, or is subsiding gradually. But when sometimes the pain has not yet disappeared completely, the movements of rising or falling appear clearer, more distinct than that weaker pain. When meditators have realized there's a distinct movements of rising or falling, we can say that mindfulness has appeared there. So meditators should mindfully note the rising movements or the falling movements as it duly occurs. At the time, they should not take any interest of the previous object, the pain, whether the pain has subsided or disappeared completely, or the pain is getting stronger. In meditators, when meditators are mindful of one phenomenon, at the same time, they want to find out what happened to the previous phenomenon, or what object going to appear in the next moment. Then they will not able to pay full attention or full awareness. They shall not be able to develop full attention. So mindfulness means full attention, full awareness. Meditators train their mindfulness or their mind to pay full attention to one phenomenon at each moment. So if meditators could follow the guideline well and make progress, then sometimes the mind, they will realize that they do not have to direct their mindfulness or guide their mind to mindful and note the phenomena. For example, when meditators are mindful of the thinking and note thinking, when thinking has disappeared, if the mindfulness is not active, then it seems like the mindfulness is staying there, although the thinking had gone. So if meditators did not direct the mind back to the home object, then the mind will wander away to thinking, or to the past, or to the future. So this is because the mindfulness is not well developed. But when meditators have made more and more progress, so sometimes they mindful note thinking. When the mindfulness is attentive and precise, and also energetic, they will realize the thinking will not last long. As soon as meditators become conscious or aware there's a thinking, the thinking usually will disappear instantly. It's because two different mental states cannot appear at the same moment. If meditators have developed strong mindfulness, as soon as they realize or they perceive there's a thinking, the thinking will disappear instantly. In other words, when only the thinking had disappeared, the awareness or the consciousness that has the characteristics of cognizing or knowing the thinking can arise. So sometimes the process of the mind is so quick. Sometimes meditators might be thinking that these two different mental states, from the thinking and knowing of the thinking, or aware of this thinking, these two different mental processes happen or occur like at the same time or same moment. But actually, the two processes did not really occur at the same moment. That they occur one after another. So, when the mindfulness is well developed, as soon as there's a rising of awareness, or the consciousness of knowing, thinking disappear instantly. In the next moment, if the process of rising movement has appeared clearly, then there's another awareness or consciousness of knowing will appear there by itself. At the time, meditators did not have to make any effort to direct their mind back to the home object. If the movements of rising had disappeared, if there's no other distinct object, then the mindfulness will mindful and note the sitting posture by itself. Sitting, touching. If the mindfulness is not well developed, then most of the time meditators have to put forth effort to direct their mind to this basic object, especially the sitting postures, the contact. Sometimes meditators also may have to direct their mind to the abdomen in order to perceive the movements. So at the time, meditators cannot see the relationship between their mind and their body phenomena. It's because mindfulness is not well developed, and concentration here refers to Khanika Samadhi, momentary concentration, which is also known as Vipassana Samadhi or Vipassana concentration. It's not strong enough. So meditators could not see the relationship between their mind and the body phenomena. But when meditators could increase the mental effort gradually, mental effort is known as virya and pari. Virya is one of the 5 mental faculties. So virya effort is the foundation of the success in meditation. So we always remind meditators to increase virya, mental effort gradually. When meditators can increase their virya gradually, their mindfulness or the attention of the mind at the present moment also shall become more attentive or precise and energetic. And meditators need to guide their mind or lead their awareness to perceive the Paramatha Dharma. At the beginning of practice, meditators cannot go beyond the concept instantly. I have explained the previous talk. For example, at the beginning of practice, meditators have perceived or have sensed that their abdomen is moving at that time. For example, they perceive there's outward movements or abdomens, then they can mindful note it as rising. When the abdomen was moving inwards, then they can mindful and note it as falling. So they have this idea or notion that the abdomen is moving, then they can note it as rising, falling. But when meditators could increase their virya effort gradually, they train their mindfulness or direct their attention to the movements itself. Because movements is one of the conditioned phenomena. Movements is rupa or materiality or one of the physical phenomena. So the meditators could direct their mind to perceive the movements better and better. Or when they are mindful of other phenomena, for example, hot, they direct their mindfulness to perceive that phenomenon, hot. If there's a sensation, they direct their attention or awareness to perceive that painful sensation itself. Meditators did not have to take note of the location of pain or the locations of any kinds of sensation. At the beginning of practice, meditators cannot go beyond the concept. For example, my leg is very painful. They have this notion or idea of this form, the legs or the knee. But the knee or the legs is a concept or panyati. But in the practice of vipassana meditation, we want to realize ultimate reality. So in the ultimate realities, we couldn't see any form or shape. We can only experience various conditioned phenomena which do not have any form or shape. If meditators always mindful of the form or the shape, then they could not realize or see the ultimate realities clearly. So that's why meditators have to train their mindfulness to perceive the ultimate realities. Or in other words, to experience the process of the ultimate realities. For example, when you're mindful of your rising movements, you pay attention to that movements. At the time, it's your mind that experience that process of rising movements. You do not have to think that this movement is anicca, impermanence, dukkha, not satisfactory, anatta, no self. We can't realize ultimate realities through concept. Concept means words. Or sometimes we think contemplation of anicca, dukkha, anatta can lead to realization. So the word contemplation in English, actually what we meant contemplation means be mindful. The ultimate realities, we cannot realize the ultimate realities through words or concept. We can only realize the ultimate realities through personal experience or direct experience. So when meditators are mindful of any process of movements or pain, at that time they do not contemplate this phenomenon is anicca, dukkha, and anatta. They merely let the mind experience the process of that movement. So when the mind is able to experience every process of any phenomenon clearly, then the realization will arise by itself. And that realization through your personal experience, you overcome your mental defilements gradually. When you experience the phenomenon as it really occurs, actually the wisdoms will develop gradually. Wisdom, panya, is known as panya because that knowledge is conducive to realize anicca, dukkha, anatta, and also that wisdom is conducive to realize the Four Noble Truths. We cannot realize the Four Noble Truths by reading the book or by listening the Dharma talks on the teaching of Four Noble Truths. We cannot realize anicca, dukkha, anatta, and Four Noble Truths through our own thinking or what called analyzing. We can only realize anicca, dukkha, anatta, the Four Noble Truths through personal experience. This personal experience is gained through the practice of mindfulness. So that's why this practice mindfulness meditation is also known as experiential meditation. Meditators have to know from their personal experience. So when meditators could realize anicca, dukkha, anatta personally, by being mindful of every conditioned phenomenon and note it as it really occurs, then gradually the experience of this impermanence is getting clearer in the mind. Or in other words, these wisdoms that realizes anicca, dukkha, anatta begins to develop. When you have this wisdom gained from personal experience, definitely your defilement shall become weaker. For example, your attachment shall be overcome gradually. You do not have to remind yourself to let go anything. Sometimes some people might have to remind themselves to let go what they love very much and so on. But you do gain personal experience of anicca, dukkha, anatta. Definitely your attachment or clinging shall be overcome gradually. So meditators, when meditators are mindful of any phenomenon, they have to let the mind experience the process phenomenon. They do not have to think in their mind that this process anicca or dukkha and anatta. So when meditators have developed strong vipassana samadhi, then they will realize that the arising of their awareness or conscious knowing is dependent on an object. If there's no object, the awareness can't arise. For example, during sitting meditation, if there's no movement arising, then can the awareness arise at that moment? At the beginning of practice, you can't see clearly. It's because your awareness is not well developed. You need to direct your mind to the object. But you have practiced correctly, then you begin to realize that the arising of your awareness or the mindfulness is a natural process. Because if there's a condition or cause, then the cause condition the arising of your awareness. For example, sometimes in the sitting meditation, sometimes meditators realize their body sway or move by itself. They become aware instantly. So actually that body movements, like swaying movement body, has aroused their attention. Because mindfulness means the attention of the mind at this present moment, isn't it? Although in the ultimate sense, the body can't move without the mind. The mind here means the desire or intention to move. But at the beginning of practice, meditators could not see the desire. But if the mind is alert, as soon as the postures has moved, there's a movements like swaying, movements and so on, meditators realize it immediately. It's because that body movements has aroused their attention naturally. So that's why we say the mind has the characteristics of knowing or cognizing. So meditators have to be mindful of their swaying movements. If their mindfulness is attentive, the swaying movements will disappear or stop by itself. If the mindfulness is well developed with strong vipassana samadhi, then meditators also will realize the relationship between the mind and body, or mind matter, for example during walking meditation, and mindfulness of daily duties. So at the time, meditators can see clearly the arising of intention. Intention is a mental process. It also has the same characteristics. It's like any mental process. It arises and passes away by itself instantly. At the time, meditators will see clearly. If there's intention, then a process of movements will take place instantly. At the time, meditators will not perceive or sense that, for example, their foot is moving. They only sense that or realize that if there's intention, there's a process of movements. So meditators could realize that at every moment there's only a pair of processes. If meditators have not yet developed vipassana samadhi, they couldn't see a pair of processes clearly. For example, if your mindfulness is not well developed, as you're mindful of rising movements or pain, you may still be able to conscious of other things, some sound, noise, or your other body phenomena, like a bit some coldness and so on. So if meditators can see a pair of processes, then they shall be able to make more progress. They shall be able to realize anicca, dukkha, anatta clearly. So sometimes some meditators might be thinking in their practice, they can focus their mindfulness or attention. They can put their attention inside the object. For example, their awareness can go or sinking into the painful sensation, or their awareness of mindfulness can go inside the phenomenon and so on. But in the ultimate sense, we cannot really sink our awareness into another process of ultimate reality, because there's no, in the ultimate realities, we cannot see any form or shape. I shall explain from the various similes found in the commentaries. Some of the similes you can also read from various discourses. So when meditators could realize a pair of processes, then they would see that nama rupa always occur as an interdependent state. They depend on each other to arise, or they can condition each other to arise. They can't arise alone. They can't arise without support. So one of the simile explains using the sound of the drums. So the sound occurs because there's a support of drums, and the drum is beaten by the stick. So the drum is one, the sound is another. The drum and the sound are not mixed up together. The drum is void of sound, and the sound is void of drums. You cannot say the sound is inside the drum, or the drum is inside the sound. So when you see clearly a pair of processes, you realize that rising movements is a pair process, is a process of awareness is another process. So the awareness can arise because there's this process of rising movements. So these rising movements has aroused the attention of your mind. So in those nama or mentality occurs having the support of materiality. The materiality means refer to this physical basis, for example the sense door and the object. So materiality is one process, mentality is another. The mentality and materiality are not mixed up together. The mentality is void of materiality, and the materiality is void of the mentality. You cannot say your nama is inside the rupa, or rupa is inside your nama. So it's just like the mentality can occur due to materiality, so the sound can occur because and the drum is beaten by a stick. So in the sitting, most of the time we may see that the awareness can arise because of your body phenomena, such movements of rising or falling, heat or hardness, and also sensation such as pain. Or sometimes sometimes the thinking can also arouse, can become a cause, condition the arising of your awareness. But if your mindfulness not yet well developed, you can't see the arising of your called awareness clearly. Then if you can realize a pair of processes clearly, when you practice your walking meditation or mindful daily activities, you may also able to realize a pair of processes taking place at each movement. If there's lifting movements, you only perceive movements as movements, and there's a process of awareness. If your mindfulness and concentration are strong enough, then you could see there's intention to live. As soon as the intention has appeared the movements will be arising instantly at the time. So that intention is not a kind of body feeling or sensation. Sometimes some meditators perceive this intention, when they say this intention, because they have sensed the tightening of their muscle. They feel that the muscle is tightening, or there's some kind of sensation like a force begins to build up in their foot and so on. But there's no intention. Mental state, for the intention is intention. It's not a kind of physical force. It's not felt like a physical force or body sensation. So at the time, meditators will perceive the arising of intention naturally. Movements will take place instantly. Similarly, when meditators practice mindfulness of their daily routine activities very well, for example, when they pay homage to the Buddha, they may realize that every process of movements is preceded by intention. They do not have to search for the intention. They do not have to wait for the intention to appear. If the mindfulness and concentration are very strong, they will realize that mental process, intention, is a natural process. So the commentary explains further. Mentality or nama has no efficient power. It cannot occur by its own efficient power. So the mind cannot arise without something. Definitely, there must be a cause for the mind to arise. The mentality, nama, doesn't eat. It doesn't drink. Mentality doesn't speak. Doesn't adopt postures. Can your mind really speak or talk? So if you want to speak or talk, then you must have rupa. So similarly, materiality is well efficient power. Or rupa cannot occur by its own efficient power. The rupa has no desire to eat. The rupa has no desire to drink. The rupa also has no desire to talk. The rupa also has no desire to adopt postures. You can sit. Why you are able to sit upright and so on. Why you are able to stand? If you do not have mind or nama, then can you sit up or stand up? So definitely, the nama supported by the nama, or that's why you can sit, or you can eat. So in other words, but when they are supported by each other, or in other words, when supported by nama rupa, or when nama rupa occur as a state of interdependent, or as a state of interconditionality, then is supported by mentality. For example, then materiality occurs. So when mentality has desire to eat or desire to drink, then what shall doing these actions of eating and drinking? When mentality has the desire to eat or to drink, then what shall doing these actions of eating and drinking? Your rupa, isn't it? Can your mind drink any water or eat any food? It's your rupa. If the mind has desire to speak or to adopt postures, then it's the materiality that speaks and adopt posture. So in other words, your body actions or movements are preceded by the mind. If there's no mind, then there's no action. Action will not take place. So when meditators have realized the relationship of the mind and the body in this way, according to the teaching and commentaries, they also begin to understand better about the teaching of karma. So what's the definition of karma? The definition of karma is cetana is karma. Cetana, the word cetana means mental volition or motive or intention. If you do not have the intention to do something, then are you going to do that action? So that's why if there's intention, then that intention creates a karma and will produce a result. So meditators who have realized the relationship between mentality and materiality well, they also begin to understand karma and its result, or karma and vipaka. Vipaka means result, better and better. Then they shall become more careful of their mind. The commentary also explains just like a man traversing in the sea. The men have to rely on the boat. So they cannot come to be by their own strength, or yet maintain themselves by their own strength. So in the word, the mind mentality cannot arise or cannot be formed by themselves. Similarly, materiality cannot form by their own strength. So they have to rely for support on other states. So in other words, they are weak in themselves, but they can form, they come to be, because they come to be with others as condition. For example, when you have developed strong mindfulness and have developed deep vipassana samadhi, then you come to realize the rising movements is a cause or is a condition for that condition the rising of the awareness. If there's no movements, then the awareness cannot appear there. That's why sometimes we give the instruction to the meditators. If they could not perceive any movements, when they direct their awareness to the abdomen, to perceive the abdomens, if they cannot perceive any movements, they should not keep their awareness there. Sometimes meditators focus their mindfulness there, searching for the movements, try to feel the movements. Then they do not really follow the Dharma well. The Dharma, I think I did mention in the previous talk, one who see dependent origination or conditionality see the Dharma, or one who see the Dharma see conditionality. Here conditionality refers to teachings of the dependent origination. So similarly, if there's no pain, you cannot look for it. But if there's a pain has appeared at that moment, then the awareness will appear there by itself. So the pain is a cause, the rising of your mind is an effect. So similarly, in your walking meditation, if there's no mind, you can't walk. So here mind means there's an intention or wanting to move and so on. So they cannot come to be by their own strength, or yet maintain themselves by their own strength. If there's no mind, can you sit now? You can't sit. So they are relying for support on other states. Though they are weak in themselves, but they form and they come to be because they come to be with others as condition. They are aroused by others as their object. They are produced by object and condition, and each by something other than itself. So during meditation, you practice correctly. In the sitting meditation, you can realize various phenomena will arouse your attention. At the beginning of practice, when the mindfulness is not yet fully developed and concentration is not deep enough, sometimes you may realize your awareness might be moving here and there. For example, sometimes meditators perceive a few places of painful sensation. For example, when they're mindful of this pain, when this pain has not disappeared, another stronger pain has appeared somewhere, the mindfulness will appear there by itself. They do not have to bring their awareness from the previous pain to another stronger pain. As they are mindful of this stronger pain, they realize the intensity of this stronger pain was decreasing, but that pain has not disappeared. Maybe another stronger sensation has appeared at another place. The awareness will appear there. When they are mindful of the other stronger pain, sometimes this pain begins to subside, but it has not yet disappeared completely. If the movements of rising appear clearly, the awareness will appear there by itself, mindful arising. So it's because the strongest object arouse the mind. The mind will notice the new object which is stronger than present object by itself. So the meditators have to follow the mind. So when meditators could practice well, they also realize that mindfulness meditation is a choiceless awareness. Meditators did not have to, should not choose the object that they want to mindful. So some teachers call this mindfulness meditation as a choiceless awareness. That means meditators did not have to choose the object that they want to mindful. Sometimes some meditators say they anchor their mind at certain phenomena. If they keep their mind to stay with one or two phenomena chosen by them, then they are not really practicing correctly the way of mindfulness. But at the beginning of practice, as I emphasized, when mindfulness is not well developed, it seems meditators have to guide the mind. As I explained before, at the beginning of practice, we can see your mind doesn't know what object should be taken as an object of meditation. They do not know their work. We can say your mind doesn't know his work or her work. So you have to train your mind to do the work. That's to mindful. So you have to guide the mind to the object, to perceive the movements well. Or in other words, you have to feed your mind with the object, feeding your mind with the object. If you do not feed your mind with the object, then the mind has no work to do. Then the mind will go back to their old habit of thinking, daydreaming, and so on. So that's why we explain that meditation is a mental work. If your mind always stay quiet, then your mind is not working. When your mind is not working, you do not activate your mind to, push your mind to work, then you will stay idle or becomes lazier and lazier. So meditators at the beginning have to lead their mind or guide their mind to the phenomenon itself. But if they practice well, they realize that their awareness can arise because there's an object, especially in the sitting meditation. So this commentary explains further. Just as man depend upon a boat for traversing the sea or to travel across the sea, so does the mental body need the matter body for occurrence. So in sitting meditation, you can see that this mental body means your mind or can arise because there are phenomena like movements of rising, movement of falling, hot, heaviness, coldness, lightness, and so on. Just like the boat depends upon the man for traversing the sea. So does the matter body or rupa need the mental body for occurrence. So in other words, in walking meditation, you can see the intention clearly. Sometimes the intention also preceded by another intention. For example, when you mindful and note various phenomena in your sitting meditation, then a certain period of time, there's a thoughts like wanting to stop the sitting, or wanting to get up, or to stand up. That one thing is also is a form of intention. The meditators can move slowly when they realize that there's one thing to stop or to stand up, then they may realize that there's an intention, for example, to open their eyes. So that opening of the eyes is preceded by intention. Then they're mindful of it as it is. When they want to move the hand, every process movement is preceded by intention. So sometimes the intention, the intention before process movements, that intention sometimes can be preceded by another intention. There's no as one thing. Usually we know it as one thing in English. Sometimes meditators mindful note standing between 5 to 10 times. Then the thought, like wanting to begin to walk. This is intention. It's a form of intention. But if the mindfulness is very sharp, there's another intention to lift up the foot. So that lifting movements is preceded by intention. So sometimes intention here refers to that intention before every process movements. So similarly, just like this body or matter body need the mental body for occurrence. So depending each upon the other, the boat and man can go to the sea, and so do mind and matter, both depend the one upon the other. So this is how meditators realize the relationship between their mind and body in terms of cause and effect. The meditators could see that clearly, then they also begin to understand better and better karma and its result. In this world, it's only about cause and effect. They occur as a state, what they call interdependent states, or as a state of intercontinuity. One can cause the other to arise, or the other can condition the other to happen, to occur, and so on. Only meditators can see conditionality clearly in their practice of mindfulness meditation, vipassana meditation. Then they begin to see there are three common characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, clearly. For example, if they can see clearly at that time, if they can see clearly the arising and passing way of process of movements, then what will happen to that process of awareness or mindfulness that has noted that rising movements? You know what will happen to your awareness if you can see the movement clearly, and you can see in terms of cause and effect. So you know from experience, the rising movements is a cause. It's because there's a movement, your awareness will appear there, or conscious knowing will appear there, depending on this process of rising movements. So when process of rising movement has disappeared, in other words, the cause has disappeared. If the cause has disappeared, do you think the effect will persist? The effect can't persist. In other words, when the cause, the rising movements, the awareness, or the process of mindfulness has appeared, dependent on that process of rising movements. So dependent on this cause. If the cause is impermanent, definitely the effect also impermanent. isn't it? So it's important to have this right understanding, so that you shall be able to practice correctly, inclining your practice towards these directions to realize cause and effect, in order to see anicca, dukkha, and anatta. If you cannot see cause and effect clearly, you may not be able to see the arising and passing away of your awareness clearly. So sometimes meditators can see the arising and passing away of the pain very clearly, or the arising and passing away of the pain clearly, and thinking clearly, or movements of rising, falling clearly, but they can't see the arising and passing away of their awareness clearly. Is because they have not yet seen or realized cause and effect or conditionality clearly. So this is explained in the scriptures and as well as commentaries. So meditators aspire to develop wisdom of realizing anicca, dukkha, anatta, and able to develop higher and higher stages of experiences in insight meditation. They have to develop these foundations of the progress. There's a knowledge of conditionality, as well as and able to see or realize the individual characteristics of mental and physical phenomena clearly. So I wish meditators always remember the key words of the practice: see things as they really are. When you see things as they really are, then when you're able to develop your mindfulness in this way constantly, continuously, you shall begin to attain deeper and deeper concentration, and clearer or more penetrative wisdoms or insight knowledge. So mindfulness meditation is experiential meditation. You do not have to bring your scriptural knowledge into your practice. You have to put it aside, so that your mind is able to fully experience every phenomenon as it is. So I wish meditators shall be able to put forth enough effort in practice, and able to gain more and more experiential knowledge from your own practice, from your own effort and practice, and able to remove your mental defilements eventually and attain enlightenment.